Self-purification is difficult and demanding, but it's one of the most liberating elements of the healing journey, and I will stand by that truth. We're a culture which is fixated on addition. We're addicted to addition. We're fixed on more, but there's a difference between the building up process and the burning away process, and most of us are building up on broken foundations. So let's fix that. Let's properly understand what it means to address the wounds of the past and hopefully release some of the vices and the stories and the self-concepts which are keeping us trapped in these loops of victimization or otherwise squashing our authenticity under the weight of things which have yet to be purified. It's a concept which is very close to my heart, and I covered this in my recent video on 4 years of sobriety, and someone asked this question about the purification spectrum, which is an idea which I frequently hint at and want to explain in a little bit more detail. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to learn how to cleanse our consciousness via the spectrum of purification, because purity operates at many levels of depth. It operates along a timeline, and it also exists on a multifaceted, holistic understanding of your identity, the physical, emotional, sexual, spiritual, creative, and otherwise multifaceted nature of your being. So it's not a simple topic. It's not a one and done process. You can't purify yourself in a weekend workshop. If you quit drinking or quit smoking, you are purified to a degree, but not all the way. And this is the same for any kind of thought form, any kind of behavior, any kind of pattern, any kind of narrative, and ultimately any possible journey that we could take. It is a series of steps and not a single leap. So where should we take this? I think the best place to go is focusing on the idea of cleanliness. I don't want this to be framed as a religious conversation in regards to very outdated ideas of being dirty or pure. I'm not interested in a dualistic separation between are you clean or are you sinful. There is truth in that narrative, but it's not the full truth. Let's focus on the metaphor of cleanliness. I want you to imagine that you suddenly find yourself waking up in your bedroom and it is utterly filthy. There are bags of rubbish spilling out in the corners. There's mold in every single crevice of the ceiling, and there are a few rats scurrying around. You would be mortified because you know what it feels like to be in a clean bedroom. At least I hope. If you are living in that situation, please stop watching this video and sort that out. I imagine you live in a clean bedroom, so you would wake up, probably be a little bit repulsed. Maybe there's some sick in your throat, and you'd go and do what you need to do in the bathroom and then put the mask on and get the gloves on and start cleaning up your space. This is an obvious thing to do. It's a natural act of self-care, and that is us purifying our environment to keep ourselves healthy and safe and in a good mood because we live in a place that we enjoy. But imagine if you didn't realize just how messy your home was. Imagine if you'd grown up in that environment and you'd never been to a house of a friend or a family member that didn't have rubbish and rats and mold. You wouldn't know the difference. Unfortunately, this is how many of us treat our bodies, how we treat our mental space, and ultimately how we care for our own heart. We are trapped in these very limited cycles of basically letting the rats run loose in our own mind, gnawing at our self-worth, and otherwise attacking us from the inside out. Certain moments happen along the journey, usually in regards to a relationship or a substance or a certain career moment where we realize there's a rat in the corner of this room, and that might be the drink, that might be the toxic relationship, that might be the workplace that no longer makes sense. So we remove the rat and we think we're clean. We think we've done the work. And then a few months later, we realized that there's also the mold, and we didn't see it initially, but now we see it and then we start cleaning it. This is a rough metaphor for the purification spectrum, and you can see that the underlying message there is that although we may think that we're wide-eyed and perceiving the world clearly, there's something about the human psyche which doesn't let in all the information at once. Usually it takes a year of sobriety until most people can understand the true underlying dynamics of why they have that particular trauma response. For one man, it may be a response to not receiving enough love from their father. For another woman, it may be a response to having some difficult previous intimate experiences with a partner who they opened up to, and then the heartbreak is being masked over with these different types of highly stimulating experiences. It usually takes a period of 6 months, sometimes 12 months, and sometimes even 2 or 3 years until someone gets the sudden clarity of their eyes to realize what the issue actually was. They needed a few steps on the spectrum to get to the point where they unlocked that deeper message of purification. So what happens when we start to unlock that new way of being in the world, or that way of looking after our own life? It's one of two things. Either we take the invitation to progress along the spectrum of purification, we start to address those shadow patterns and that wounded consciousness, or the various parts and subpersonalities which are holding on to the wounds and repeating the behaviors, or we avoid the call and we don't cross the threshold, and although we may not fall back into the particular vice, let's say it's drinking, we don't fall back into drinking. We'll take that exact same energy, we'll catch the train of the thought form or the self-destructive narrative, and we'll wrap something else around it. Someone who's giving up alcohol might go through a period of workaholism, and then go through a period of fitness addiction, and then go through a period of promiscuity. They won't drink, but they might do all three of these things either sequentially or all together as a way of basically taking that same wounded undercurrent and finding a new river or a new opening, or maybe building a full canal for that dirty, polluted trauma energy to continue running through. But the actual solution is to get to the slightly higher stage of awareness and look down at the pool and hopefully purify the sludge at the core. There's one suggestion I have, which is hopefully highly pragmatic for how you can do this. In addition to cutting out substances, which I highly recommend for everyone watching this video, and in addition to cleaning up your diet with general, obvious lifestyle traits, I recommend fasting. Fasting, water fasting, extended 2, 3, 4-day fasts were essential for me for about a 5-year period when I first started healing myself. I've done somewhere between 25 to 30 fasts, my shortest being just a day and my longest being 5 days with no food. I've done 3 days with no food, and 2 days of that 3 days was with no water as well. And fasting, generally speaking, at this periodic intervals, usually on my birthdays, usually around Christmas, every couple of months for that 5-year period, was incredibly liberating. Because I emptied myself, literally emptied myself. Yes, there's the autophagy element on a biological level, where at a certain period of time, I think after the 36-hour mark, your body starts the cell renewal process of harvesting out the old dead cells and renewing them in a very interesting self-restorative manner. And that's all happening physically, but we're talking about the more spiritual, psychological element of fasting. There's something about purification that is really missed when we're constantly consuming. There's a literal truth here, and there's a deeper psychological truth. The constant consumption process, which for me means not eating during a fast, but it also means not consuming media, being outside, journaling, all of those various processes. Getting to that point of consciousness where you empty yourself out and you feel your own fragility at times, and at other times you have very potentially mystical awakening experiences. In fact, I have this very interesting CD here, and I don't want you to make it too much of a synchronistic narrative of great grandiose significance, but on my 22nd or 23rd birthday, I was doing a fast, and on the second day of the fast, I stopped drinking water, and because I was a very intense young man, I decided that how should I celebrate my birthday but not eat for 3 days, and also on my birthday itself, I'm going to walk a marathon through German forests. So for about 14, 15 hours, I walked. I was in North Germany near Hamburg, doing some volunteering stuff, and I just walked for the whole day with no food, and had that experience. And it was, as you can imagine, quite a pilgrimage kind of feeling. I just put a point on the map, walked through the forest, and then walked back. And a whole variety of things happened. I saw a very interesting dog that came up and approached me and then got very angry. But the most interesting element is this CD here, which hopefully you can see. You can see my face. There we go. And it says Sufi music. Sufism is the mystical branch of Islam, and I don't have this CD because I was listening to it during the hike itself. I found this in the bushes on the side of the road when I looked down because I heard a noise, and there's a mystical Sufi CD on this very pilgrimage fasting experience in a random highway in Germany. And it's like, maybe someone got really upset with the music itself, but interesting experience, right? An interesting experience that we don't need to make into too much of a grandiose divine guidance from the Lord or your angels or whatever religious sect of choice. But there's something about those magical moments that tends to be amplified or increased during fasting periods, which is why for about 5 years I was periodically fasting, and recently, the last few years, it's been less and less significant. I got the lessons and now I've moved on to the next stage. But if you haven't fasted for 2 or 3 days and you don't know what it feels like to go through that self-purification process and cleanse your consciousness by saying no to consumption, all types of consumption, and seeing who you are with your anxieties, your terrors, your shady memories, and your ambiguous hopes for the future, it's not necessarily cowardly not to do that. But for me personally, take this or leave this, I didn't feel like I was actually in touch with myself until I could really test myself at those extremes. And I think it's the same kind of young man energy that leads people to go and do incredibly stupid things, which I've also done, or incredibly physically demanding things of one form or another. So maybe that's just me, but all the religious traditions I've encountered also have elements of periodic fasting. We've got Ramadan in the Islamic tradition, and we've even got the Christian tradition as just 2 examples where Jesus, of course, goes and fasts for extended periods of time. And even things like Lent around Easter, we have this giving up, this renunciation period. Many, many traditions point towards the same truth, that if you want to truly contact yourself, you need to empty yourself. And this purification spectrum idea being tied into the concept of fasting probably means that your first fast, those first 72 hours, is going to feel a lot different from your 10th fast and your 20th one. The lessons will be distinct each time, and I recommend having a journal. I recommend trying to minimize your work, in fact not working at all. If you drink coffee or tea, then taper off that. You can find all the resources online to fast in a way which is sensible for you. And of course the obvious disclaimer that if you've struggled with disordered eating in one form or another, then just be wary of where that kind of psychological territory could come in with fasting. I haven't personally, but if you do have a history of eating disorders, then just be a little bit more careful with fasts. But still, do consider it. Fasting seems like the most literal element of self-purification that I could suggest to you, but really the intention of fasting can still be applied in a day-to-day life. It's stripping back elements of consumption and patterns of being or patterns of relating to ourselves progressively, incrementally, and over the course of many years, with various peaks and valleys of intensity, but still maintaining that steady pace along the spectrum. And I'm right there on the journey with you. I don't know where it ends, but I can say, however many years deep I am into this process, that it's truly an undercurrent which keeps getting deeper and deeper. And you also purify that water droplet by droplet, the water being the energy of your life. Metaphor may be a little bit little bit muddy, but you purify drop by drop, and you close off some of the channels which don't deserve expression anymore. You shut down the canals, you dam up the rivers, and over time you don't become stagnant. You just become a deep mountain well of energy. And of course, there is a very obvious connection towards sexual practices as well. And if you're a man who hasn't learned the lessons of seed retention, and if you're a woman who hasn't contacted your secular wisdom with your menstrual cycle, and those are things that would be curious for you, then I truly recommend that you go and research those or live by those practices a little bit further down the journey. It's full spectrum. I'll leave it there. Spectrum of sobriety, it is defined by you. You're the person who gets to choose what is important for you. And that same metaphor of the house being dirty and you wake up and realize just how filthy it is, it doesn't mean that you are filthy. It doesn't mean that you're the evil one. You don't need to fall into that old kind of thinking. But there is a level of discernment for your environment being filthy, and that can be your mental environment, that can be the memories of the past, and that can be the ambitions for the future. And if you notice the filth, then you better get scrubbing. Not in an anxious way, maybe there's a period of big burning, a big bonfire, but just keep working at it. It's a realistic way of approaching the cleansing of your consciousness. Give yourself 5 years, and it does pay off. It really does pay off. But you gotta commit. You gotta keep doing the work. And that's what this channel's about. While I remember, my mentorships are now open. There's a pinned comment at the top of the comment section. They're going to be shut very soon. If you're interested in working with me, that's where it is. I'm not very good at advertising these things, but that's where all my information is. So hope that helps. I'll see you in the next one. Right over here.